Breaking news! Breaking news!
I will be joined shortly by our friend and esteemed colleague, Flying Rich. But until then, let me just say, this morning I woke up to not such good news, and that is DLD After Dark calling. But I will not talk to him right now because I'm talking to you guys. And it looks like the ATF has dropped the new rule on being in the business of dealing in firearms, which, if you read the actual rule, which I might have got a little advanced copy of, I'm not saying I did or not, ATF, that's for you to find out, or try to find out at least. But if you sell a single firearm, you could be guilty of being in the business of dealing in firearms. And not only do you not have the right to the presumption of innocence, it's actually reversed, that the evidence has to show that you are not in the business of dealing with firearms. This is what we call backdoor universal background checks. And this applies to personal collections, auctioneers, and everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. I see Rich firing up his computer in the background, so he'll be on in a second to help me go through the new rule of being engaged in the business of selling firearms. So here we go. Engaged in the business of selling firearms. I am going to go ahead and put this on the screen over here so I can keep an eye on the chat over there. And here comes Flying Rich himself.
Crumpy!
If you don't know, Flying Rich reads all my stuff because I read at a really, really fast rate. So when I try to read out loud, I skip 4 or 5 sentences in the and it's just I learned how to speed read, but when I learned how to read, I basically learned how to speed read, so I didn't really learn how to read the regular way.
Okay, where are we going?
Yeah, we are going. So, okay, first I'm just going to say this is April 10th.
Not April Fools.
They signed the rule. This is going to hit the public registry soon. Okay, this is what the rule clarifies. It clarifies the definition of a dealer and defines terms purchase, sell, and something of value as it applies to dealers, adding definitions for the term personal collection or personal collection of firearms and personal firearms collection, and for responsible person. I'll read the first part. You can take over from there. Setting forth the conduct that I presume that constitutes engaging in the business of dealing firearms and presume to demonstrate the intent to predominantly earn a profit from the sale or deposition of a firearm, absence of reliable evidence to the contrary in civil and administrative matters. You notice something there, Rich. It doesn't say criminal. Why doesn't it say criminal?
Because there's no law?
No. You have something in a criminal proceeding. The presumption
because it says administrative, right?
No, you have the presumption of
innocent.
And this is presuming that you are
so guilty. You're guilty unless you prove otherwise.
Correct. Oh my goodness, we're gonna get into the actual rule. It's 400 some pages. I read it this morning. And by the way, a single firearm that you sell in your lifetime means that you're engaged in the business of selling firearms.
So is this their way of a registry?
This is their way of universal background checks. Let me go to number 4 here. To clarify, the intent to predominantly earn a profit does not require a person to receive any type of gain, particularly gain. And that intent does not have to be shown when a person purchases or sells a firearm for criminal or terrorism purposes. Okay, let's go. Clarifying the circumstances when a person would not be presumed to be engaged in the business of a firearm, including auctioneers, or when purchasing firearms for and selling from a personal collection. Addressing procedure, former licensees and responsible persons acting on behalf of licensee must follow when liquidating their business inventory upon revocation or termination of their license, and clarifying that the license must follow verification and record keeping procedures, and blah 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 subsection subpart H, rather than using the ATF form 4473 when firearms are transferred to other licensees, including the transfer of a licensed sole proprietorship to a person's personal collection. Basically, if you shut down a gun store, like when I shut down a gun store, right, I had probably 100 guns. I was like, I can sell them to someone, or I can just keep them myself. I like them, so like 4473 them all in my personal collection. All right, you ready to read the rule?
Sure.
And this is all responsible from.
Now, is this effective immediately?
We're gonna get into that, but this is all from the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, and I just that thing that wasn't a big deal that a lot of people said, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, guess what, mother effers?
All Republicans I voted for said it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. We're going to read something. We're not going to go through there's a lot. Remember when I said, when people were like, oh my God, it's 15,000 pages? I was like, no, I've seen it. It's not 15,000 pages. Whatever. It was like, there's a lot of markups and everything else in there. Well, it was right. Of course. No one's going to say that. All right. So this is just the summary. So it's once it is published to the Federal Register, which will probably be this week or early next week, it's going to be 30 days from there. So you got a 30-day window before it actually becomes law.
That's crazy.
All right, this is just the executive summary, blah, blah, blah. Just to keep us safe until we don't die a horrible death. And then it goes into Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. The reason why they're saying Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, because they're saying that Congress delegated us the authority to do this unconstitutional draconian thing. So therefore, you cannot attack us on Chevron, because Chevron deference is probably going to go away pretty damn fast. And that's going to kill the bump stock rule. That's going to kill frames and receivers. That's going to kill the brace rule. So they know that. So they are trying to get around that because they've read the writing on the wall. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of stuff. So it's talking about, they posted blah, blah, blah. So up here. So let's just get into the definition of a dealer here.
Definition of a dealer. The NPRM noted that in enacting the BSCA, Congress expanded the definition of engaging in the business as applied to the dealer in firearms as noted above, 18 U.S.C. 921 blah, consistent with the text and purpose of the GCA. ATF regulations have long defined the term dealer to include persons engaged in the business of selling firearms at wholesale or retail, or as a gunsmith or pawnbroker on a part-time basis.
Yeah, but that's no longer the case.
Wow. The NPRM explained that due to the BSCA, with BSCA is which?
Bipartisan Safer Communities Act.
Oh, okay. Amendments and let's see. Okay, amendments as well as continual confusion and non-compliance before and after the BCSA was passed. The department has further considered what it means to be a dealer engaged in the firearms business in light of new technologies, mediums of exchange, and forms in which firearms are bought and sold with the predominant intent of obtaining pecuniary gain. The NPRM further stated that since 1968, advocates advancement. Oh, wait, 1968 advancements in manufacturing, 3D printing, and distribution technology,
including
internet sales. Yeah, internet sales.
The advancement
changes
of manufacturing, e.g.,
3D
3D
printing.
printing.
Yeah. Internet sales, changes in marketplace for firearms and related products, large-scale gun shows have changed the various ways individuals shop for firearms, and therefore have created the need for further clarity or further regulation in the regulatory definition of a dealer. The proliferation of new communications technologies and e-commerce has made it simple for persons intending to make a profit to advertise and sell firearms to a large potential market at minimal cost and with minimal effort. Using a variety of means and often as a part-time activity, the proliferation of sales at larger scale gun shows, flea markets, similar events online has also altered the marketplace since the GCA was enacted in 1968.
And remember, I did a story yesterday about how the government's own statistics shows that guns bought at gun shows, 3D printed, built from kits, or bought online are very, very seldom used in crimes. But keep on going.
Therefore, in light of the BSCA's changes to the GCA and to provide additional guidance on what it means to be engaged in the business as a dealer within the diverse modern marketplace for firearms, the NPRM proposed to amend the regulatory definition of dealer in 27 CFR 478.11 to clarify that firearms dealing may occur whenever or through whatever medium qualifying activities are conducted. This includes at any domestic or international, public or private marketplace or premises. The proposed definition would provide non-exclusive examples, such as existing marketplaces, a gun, and you need to scroll up.
I'm going.
A gun show or event, flea market, auction house, or gun range or club at one's home, by mail order, over the internet, through the use of other electronic means, e.g. an online, scroll up, broker, online auction, text messaging service, social media raffle, or website, or at any other domestic, international, public, or private marketplace or premises. Many of these examples were referenced by courts even before the BSCA expansion, as well as in ATF regulatory materials and common publicly available sources. These examples in the NPRM were designed to clarify that firearms dealing requires a license in whatever place you go through and whatever medium the firearms are purchased and sold.
Okay, after you finish reading this paragraph, I want to make a comment here.
Including the internet and locations other than traditional brick and mortar gun store. However, regardless of the medium through or location at which the dealer buys and sells firearms to obtain a license under the GCA, the dealer must still have a fixed premises in a state from which to conduct business subject to the license and comply with all applicable state and local regulations regarding the conduct of such business. USC blah.
Okay, I
Okay.
want to make a thing. Well, this is also. Didn't the ATF just straight up murder someone for selling a gun at a gun store, a gun show? By the way,
Yep.
and also let's go ahead. Thank you, politically incorrect mechanic. By this logic, privately selling my used vehicle to another private individual makes me now an illegal, unlicensed car dealer. What a bunch of BS. And let's say freemen die free. We are past the federal government possessing legitimacy, which 100%, 110% actually. We are joined by DLD After Dark as well. So let's keep on going.
Gentlemen.
Hey, man, you're a gun dealer, by the way. Go ahead.
I think we
The
all are.
NPRM explained that even though an applicant must have a business premises in a particular state to obtain a license under the GCA, firearms purchases or sales requiring a license in the United States may involve conduct outside of the states. Specifically, USC blah has long prohibited any person without a license from shipping,
It just
transporting,
basically
receiving.
says that you can export, but so let's skip that.
And all right, prohibits traveling from a foreign country.
Just start with the new one.
The NPRM further noted that as recently amended by the BSCA and the GCA now expressly prohibits a person from smuggling or knowingly taking a firearm out of the United States with the intent to engage in conduct that would constitute a felony for which the person may be prosecuted in a court in the United States if the conduct had occurred within the United States. Willfully engaging in the business
stop right there. Stop right there. So if you do something illegal in another country, instead of that country just prosecuting you, they're going to prosecute you now.
Now, does this also include if you're trafficking firearms to cartels?
Oh, like Eric Holder? I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I think there's a little exception for that for Eric Holder.
Well, maybe if you're a government actor,
maybe.
Yeah.
Is there a carve out, just like the congressman on what is it, the new renewal of the Patriot Act?
So basically, if you deal with firearms, they're gonna throw you in prison. Is what this says.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all going on. Okay, now let's go down to B.
B, definition of engagement in the business and the purchase and sale. To further clarify the regulatory definition of a dealer engaged in the business with a predominant intent of earning a profit through the repetitive purchase and resale of firearms, the NPRM also proposed to define, based on common dictionary definitions and relevant case law, the terms purchase and sale, and derivative terms thereof, such as purchases, purchasing, purchased, and sell, Sally sells seashells by the seashore, selling, sold, Sammy something. Specifically, the rule proposed to define purchase and derivative terms thereof as the act of obtaining a firearm in exchange for something of value, and the term of sale and derivative terms thereof, including resale, as the act of providing a firearm in exchange for something of value. The term something of value.
So basically, you don't have to earn cash.
Wow.
Yeah, and that changed. There used to be some folks that would help friends and maybe exchange for just some ammunition or, just clearly that's not people dealing in firearms or engaging in the business of.
Defining these terms to include any method of payment for a firearm would clarify that persons cannot avoid the licensing requirement by, for instance, bartering or, scroll down.
Sorry, I was marking a comment.
Providing or receiving services in exchange for firearms with predominant intent to earn a pecuniary gain even where no money is exchanged. It would also clarify that a person must have a license to engage in the business of dealing in firearms, even when the medium of payment or consideration is unlawful.
Basically, if you trade firearms for drugs, they're gonna say you're also a gun dealer.
Wow.
All right, come on, keep on going.
Because the purchase and sale broadly include services provided in exchange for firearms, both as defined by common dictionaries and as proposed in the NPRM. The department further proposed to make clear that certain persons who provide auctioneer services are not required to be licensed as dealers. ATF has long interpreted the statutory definition of engaged in the business as excluding auctioneers who provide only the auction services on commission by assisting in liquidation of firearms at an estate type auction. The new definition of the BCSA does not alter that interpretation. The department proposed to incorporate this long-standing interpretation into the regulations while otherwise clarifying regulatory definition of engaged in the business.
So basically, auctioneers are still in the clear.
And Congressman and Eric Holder.
Yeah.
As the NPRM explained in this content, the auctioneer is generally providing services only
Okay,
as
this
an
is
agent of
basically we can skip
Same
all
thing.
that. Basically, that's what this says.
The NPRM pointed out that the department has observed through its enforcement efforts, regulatory functions, knowledge of existing case laws, and subject matter expertise that persons who are
Like the
engaged in
guy that
certain
can't put together a Glock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, come on. Just want to throw that out there.
certain firearms purchase and sale activities are more likely than not to be engaged in the business of dealing in firearms at wholesale or retail. These activities have been observed through a variety of criminal, civil, administrative enforcement actions proceedings brought by the department, including the ATF inspections of prospective and existing wholesale and retail dealers of firearms who are or intend to be engaged in the business, criminal investigations and resulting prosecutions of persons engaged in the business of dealing in firearms without a license, civil administrative actions under USC 924D to seize, forfeit firearms intended to be sold by persons engaged in the business without a license. ATF cease and desist letters issued to prevent Section 922A1A violations and ATF.
You don't have to read the.
Okay. ATF administration proceedings under blah to deny licenses to persons who willfully engaged in the business of dealing in firearms without a license, or to revoke or deny renewal of his existing licenses held by licensees who
So
aided
basically,
and
if you
abetted the
sell a gun in
misconduct.
your FFL, you're automatically going to be.
Wow. So if somebody does a private transaction as an FFL, that they could just arbitrarily say, "Yeah, we're not going to renew your FFL."
Imagine that. Keep on going.
The
And
rebuttable presumptions
Hold on,
would
I'm sorry,
not
Rich, real quick. And then the ATF gets all of the out of business records.
right.
Interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Rich.
The rebuttable presumptions would not shift the burden of persuasion in any proceeding from the government. In addition, while the criteria is set forth in the proposed rule may be useful to a court in a criminal proceeding, for example, to inform appropriate jury instructions regarding permissible inferences, the proposed regulatory text made clear that the presumptions do not apply to criminal proceedings. I don't
what did I
understand that.
remember when I brought that up? Because I said what they were doing, that they specifically stated this, so we can't go after them for violating your presumption of innocence.
It's insane.
Aha.
The department considered but did not propose in the NPRM an alternative that would have set a minimum numerical threshold of firearms sold by a person within a certain period. That approach was not
Basically, they're like, well, is it 5 or what? This basically, they did
5
that
in a
so
month,
they
5 in a
they
week.
can bust you for selling a single firearm.
The approach was not proposed for several reasons. First, while selling large numbers of firearms or engaging or offering to engage in frequent transactions may be highly indicative of business activity, neither the courts nor the departments have recognized a set minimum number of firearms purchased or
Okay,
resold.
you can skip this because it's 400 pages. But just go down to this where I'm highlighting.
Even a single firearm transaction or offer to engage in a transaction, when combined with other evidence, may be sufficient to require a license.
Wow.
One.
One
No,
singular
one offer. One
an
offer.
offer.
Hey, Dark, what have I got? Oh, I need a license.
This is absolute tyrannical
Tyranny.
insanity. Yeah.
All right, just go down to the rather establishing.
Rather than establishing a minimum threshold number of firearms purchased or sold, the NPRM proposed to clarify that, absent reliable evidence to the contrary, a person would be presumed to be engaged in the business of dealing firearms when the person, 1, sells or offers a firearm and also represents to potential buyers or otherwise demonstrates a willingness and ability to purchase and sell additional firearms, spends more money or its equivalent on purchases of firearms for the purpose of resale than a person's reportable taxable gross income during the applicable period of time, repetitively purchases for the purpose of resale or sells or offers for sale firearms through a straw or sham business or individual straw purchasers or sellers that cannot be lawfully purchased or possessed, including stolen firearms.
Basically, you can't. It's saying you can't sell stolen firearms, which is
I
hard
wonder
to
what's
say.
happening more often, straw purchases or actual criminality that's going unprosecuted.
Hmm.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about here. How about this? Start from here. Former license.
Former licensee or responsible person acting on the behalf of the former licensee sells or offers for sale firearms that were in business inventory of such licensee at the time the license was terminated. License revocation, denial of license, renewal of license, expiration, or surrender of license were not transferred to a person collection in accordance with USC blah and blah as a former licensee or responsible person acting on behalf of a former licensee sells or offers for sale firearms that were transferred to a personal collection of such former licensee or responsible person prior to the time the license was terminated, unless the firearms were received and transferred without any intent to willfully evade the restrictions placed on the licensees by chapter blah, US code blah. 1 year has passed from the date of the transfer to the personal collection.
So there's a time limit, so you can't sell any firearm for a year if you were a dealer. And also, the presumption of this lies with the presumption of guilt.
Hold on. When you say, I think you said within a year if you're a dealer, you mean if you're not a dealer?
Well, if you're not a
If
dealer
you're
anymore,
formerly a dealer.
if you're
So if
formerly a
you
dealer and you transfer your personal collection,
Gotcha.
or you buy a gun and you're formerly a dealer, you can't transfer any guns that you get for your personal collection for a year,
no matter what.
no matter what.
So like no gun store, 4473, none of that.
Yeah.
At the same time, the department recognized in the NPRM that certain transactions were not likely to be sufficient to support a presumption that a person is engaging in the business of dealing firearms. For this
So that's
reason,
why I
the
put that up.
proposed rule also included examples when a person would not be presumed to be engaged in the business of dealing firearms. Specifically, under the proposed rule, a person would not be presumed to be engaged in the business when the person transfers firearms only as a bona fide gift or occasionally sells firearms to obtain more valuable, desirable, or useful firearms for their personal collection or hobby, unless their conduct also demonstrates a predominant intent to earn a profit. Well, but that contradicts the earlier part. Of course it does.
Exactly. It's the government.
Yeah, of course it does.
It's like if you sell any gun, you're guilty. By the
If
way, you
you
can sell some guns. It's like
if you
Well, you got to presume guilt. You got to prove that you didn't.
if you even offer to sell a gun, if you get a text message and you say,
You presume. You have to be able to. You better have some way to prove that. You're in the business of selling a firearm.
I'm starting to see a pattern here with this with red flags. It almost seems like they're going out of their way to do anything and everything they can to remove the presumption of innocence prior to a fair trial.
but what's more nefarious about this is we are all gun dealers now, and we can all have our right to buy and sell guns revoked.
Well, the great thing about that is that there's no possible way that they can remove the knowledge and information and skills that we have. And I could literally build a gun in 4 minutes if they really want to go that route.
All right, keep on going.
The first proposed presumption that a person would be presumed to be engaged in the business when the person sells or offers for sale firearms, and also represents to potential buyers or otherwise demonstrates willingness and ability to purchase and sell additional firearms, reflects that definition of engaged in the business in blah, does not require that a firearm actually be sold or a person by a person so long as the person holding himself out as a dealer. This is because the relevant definition of engaged in the business defines the phrase by reference to the intent to predominantly earn a profit through the repetitive purchase and resale of firearms, even if those firearms do not actually this is a simulation. I woke up in Bizarro World, right? Even if those firearms are not actually repetitively purchased and resold, the second presumption and proposed that a person is engaged in the business when spending more money or equivalent on purchases.
I accidentally shared the wrong screen. I'm sorry. Let me go back to the other one.
Oh, that's another document we're reviewing.
That's pre-crime. Minority Report.
Yes.
Right,
Yes. Got it.
Thank you for describing that. I was unsure.
Come on.
It's still on pre-crime.
You gotta change the screen.
I clicked the button. Must have not taken.
The second presumption proposed that a person is engaged in the business when spending more money or its equivalent on purchases of firearms for the purpose of resale than the person's reportable taxable gross income during the applicable period of time. That reflects that a person who spend more money or its equivalent on purchase of firearms for resale than the reported gross income are likely to be primarily earning their income from those sales, which even is stronger evidence of an intent to profit than merely supplementing one's income. Alternatively,
so they're gonna look at your taxes and see how much money you make, and if you buy too many firearms, they're gonna be like,
all right,
spend more.
I've made no money this year, but I've got money in the bank.
I know where you're going.
You bought a gun, so you must be wanting to sell that gun.
In other news, an admitted firearm dealer, YouTube commentator,
right, reflects the persons who spend more money or its equivalent on purchase of firearms for resale than the reported period gross income are likely to be primarily earning their income from those sales, in which even stronger evidence intent to profit than merely supplementing one's income. But supplementing your income isn't legal either.
Yeah,
alternatively,
this is like let's say you have an expensive gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you sell it. Well, that could be like let's say you buy a gun last year, like in December or January, and you lose your job. Oh, I can't afford this. I got to get rid of this because I need money and I can't afford this. You cannot sell that gun because you're engaged in the business of selling firearms.
Like, that is such a reasonable explanation for something going down. I mean, that's insanity.
I mean, that's my situation now. Look, if things got worse, I would sell things.
Yeah.
You can't because you'll be engaged in the business of selling firearms.
Well, I'm gonna
So
sue
I
them to
can't
find
go to
security.
an FFL and say, "Hey, here's my RFB. I don't want it anymore. I've shot it twice."
Well, if you're well, when did you buy it?
3 years ago.
Well, let's say you bought it like in February
hmm
and you've been out of work since February. Oh, you can't do it.
Alternatively, such persons may be using funds derived from criminal activities to purchase firearms, for example, including funds provided by
This is just the illicit
co-conspirators.
activity, which is already illegal. Right.
The first presumption proposed within the third category listed above, that a person would be presumed to be engaged in the business when repetitively purchasing, reselling, or offering to sell firearms through straw or sham business or individual straw purchasers or sellers, reflects that persons who
This is just
conceal
about
their
straw
transactions.
purchases, which is already illegal. I go down to the second category presumption.
The second presumption proposed under third category, that a person would be presumed to be engaged in the business when repetitively purchasing, reselling, or offering to sell firearms that cannot lawfully be possessed, reflects that such firearms are alternatively sought by criminals and earn
What?
higher profits for the illicit dealer. The dealer is therefore taking on additional labor and risk with the intent of increasing profits. Such dealers will often buy and sell stolen firearms and firearms with obliterated serial numbers
Which are already
because
illegal. Skip it.
What?
Yeah. All right, keep on going.
the first presumption proposed under the fourth category listed above, repetitive sales or offers for the sale of firearms within 30 days of purchase, reflects that firearms for personal collection are not likely to be repetitively sold within such a short period of time of the purchase. That
I have done
conduct
that.
is more
I've done that.
consistent with the
Like,
treatment as a business.
I bought a gun because I couldn't get this other gun, and I bought the gun because this gun is, you know, highly sought after, and I can't get my hands on it. And then all of a sudden, it came up, so I bought that gun. But then the gun that I bought because I couldn't get that other gun, since I got the gun now, I don't really want that gun because I got the gun that I really wanted.
You mean because
Gotcha.
it's property and you can make whatever decision you choose to?
Yeah,
Interesting.
go to likewise.
Likewise, under the second and third presumptions proposed under this category, the department has observed through its investigative and regulatory experience that persons who repetitively sell firearms in new condition or like new condition in their original packaging, or firearms of the same similar kind and type.
Oh, damn, I guess I got a bunch of barkeeps.
You may have a few dozen.
So is this retroactive? Can they come after you for this?
Oh,
Everything is retroactive.
Are not as likely to be repetitively selling such firearms from personal collection, in contrast with sales from personal collection. Persons engaged in the business who are selling from a business inventory can earn the greatest profit by selling firearms in the best new condition, or by selling the particular makes and models of firearms that their customers most want. So get out of town. You're telling me that if you sell something that people want, that's wrong?
Well, remember, it could literally just be one individual
Mhm.
offer of a transfer.
The presumption proposed under the fifth category listed above, that a former licensee or responsible person acting on behalf of such former licensee is engaged in the business when they sell or offer to sell firearms that were in the business inventory upon license termination recognizes that licensees likely intended to predominantly earn a profit from their repetitive purchase and resale of firearms, not to acquire the firearms as a personal collection or otherwise a personal firearm consistent with GCA's plain language under blah. This presumption recognizes
What they're trying to say is, if you had a license, you had an FFL, you had a gun store, and you bought guns, and your gun store shuts down, you transfer it. The original intent of you purchasing those guns were to resell, so therefore those guns are always tied to that.
that's crazy. The final presumption proposed that a former licensee or responsible person acting on the behalf of the former licensee is engaged in the business when they sell or offer for sale firearms that were transferred to personal inventory of such former licensee or responsible person prior to the time the license was terminated, unless the firearms were received and transferred without any intent to willfully evade the restrictions placed on licensees by Chapter 44, Title 18, and 1 year has passed since the transfer is consistent with blah, which deems firearms.
This guy there
In the NPRM, the department noted that these presumptions may be rebutted in administrative or civil proceeding. Now, administrative is kangaroo court, and likewise civil proceeding, with reliable evidence demonstrating that a person is not engaged in the business or dealing in firearms if, for example, the reliable evidence that an individual purchased a few collectible firearms from a licensed dealer where all sales are final and then resold the firearms back to the licensee within 30 days because the purchaser was not satisfied. The presumption that the unlicensed reseller is engaged in the business arising from the evidence of repetitive sales or offers for sale of firearms within 30 days from the purchase may be rebutted. Similarly, the presumption that a person
saying, just skip that. Basically, it's again, you have to prove that you're not in the business.
But here's the other thing that I'm sure they are considering. If you buy a few, whatever, a few high dollar items, and then you go back to the dealer within 30 days and say, I don't like them, want them, it was a, whatever, what do you call it? Like a purchase that you just like, I'm drawing a blank on the term, but,
spur of the moment,
yeah, like spur of the moment
impulse.
purchase, impulse buy. If you go back to that same dealer, you're losing 20 to 50% of the value of those firearms, right? They know what people are doing. That this is their way of them putting anybody in a category of an unlicensed dealer.
Correct. And then if you actually sell a firearm and somehow it comes out, then what? You're not allowed to have firearms ever again, buy or sell them ever again.
I mean, I would assume that it'd be treated just like any other.
So the only thing that's not here is logbooks that you have to have a registry of this.
No, it's
Because a registry in multiple legal statutes is illegal.
Read the next paragraph.
NPRM explained the statutory definition engaged in the business excludes a person who makes occasional sales, exchanges, or purchases of firearms for the enhancement of a personal collection or a hobby, or who sells all or part of his personal collection of firearms. To clarify this definitional exclusion, the proposed rule would add a single definition for the terms personal collection of firearms, and personal firearms collection. Explain how those terms apply to licensees and to make clear that licensees must follow verification and record keeping procedures.
Do you see why I said to keep on reading?
That sounds familiar.
And rather than using ATF Form 4473, they acquire firearms from other licensees, including sole proprietor who transfers a firearm to their personal collection or otherwise as a personal firearm in accordance with blah. Specifically, the NPRM proposed to define a personal collection personal collection of firearms and personal firearms collection and personal firearms that a person accumulates for the study, comparison, exhibition, for the hobby, non-commercial recreational activities, for personal enjoyment such as hunting or ski target competition. This reflects a common definition of the terms collection and hobby. The phrase "or for a hobby" was adopted from blah, which excludes from the definition of engaged in the business firearms acquired for a hobby. The NPRM also expressly excluded from the definition of personal collection any firearm purchased for resale or made with the predominant intent to earn a profit. The NPRM further explained that under blah and its implementing regulations, a licensee who acquires firearms for a personal collection is subject to certain additional requirements before the firearms can become part of a personal collection. Accordingly, the proposed rule further explained that how that term would apply to firearms acquired by a licensee person engaged in the business as a licensed manufacturer, licensed importer, or licensed dealer under the GCA by defining personal collection of firearms in personal firearms collection when applied to licensees to include only firearms that were acquired or transferred without the intent to willfully evade restrictions placed upon licensees, chapter blah, recorded by the licensee as an acquisition in the licensee's acquisition and disposition record in accordance with blah, unless acquired prior to licensure and not intended
You
for
skip this.
resale.
One of the things that I think is really funny is that if you're a dealer and you have a private firearm, you have to
Appropriately identified as not for resale by attaching a tag if on the
What?
So basically, if you're a tabletop dealer, all your personal guns, you have to put a tag on that says not for resale.
Wow.
Oh God. You can't make this shit up.
from the brain of Deedlebug.
Like
The NPRM also proposed to add regulatory definition of the term responsible person to mean any individual possessing directly or indirectly the power to direct or cause the direction of management and policies of a sole proprietorship, corporation, company, partnership, or association insofar that they pertain to firearms. This definition comes from blah and has long been reflected on the application for License Form 7 and other ATF applications since enactment of similar definition in the Safe Explosives Act, and because all explosives are safe if you pass this act. This definition would exclude, for example, store clerks or cashiers who cannot make management or policy decision with respect to firearms, what company or store policies and
Yeah, I just want to say this is not proposed. This is the actual rule.
so aren't they supposed to put it out 90 days? There's a comment period and then
They did the comment period.
Controls to adopt which firearms are bought and sold by the business and who is hired to buy and sell firearms, even if their duty includes buying and selling firearms for the business. The NPRM also explained that the BSCA broadened the definition of engaged in the business as a dealer by substituting predominantly earn or profit for with the principal objective of livelihood of or profit. It also defined that the term predominantly earn a profit, the NPRM proposed to incorporate those statutory changes as discussed above. The NPRM proposed to further implement the BSCA's amendments by clarifying that the proof of profit proviso, BSCA's provision that proof of profit shall not be required as to a person who engages in the regular and repetitive purchase and disposition of firearms for criminal purposes or terrorism. Also excludes the intent to profit, thus making it clear it is not necessary for the federal government to prove that a person intended to make a profit if the person was dealing in firearms for criminal purposes of terrorism.
So, but
Clarifying that
you might say, oh, criminal person is terrorism, but they can make
January 6th.
anything fall under that.
Yeah, for sure.
Clarifying that a person may have the predominant intent to profit, even if the person doesn't actually obtain pecuniary gain from selling or disposing of fire. So if you don't sell it for a profit, but had one brain cell say I was going to sell it for a profit, then
Or
you're a
you
dealer.
offer it for more than what you paid for it,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to bring down the price because no one bought it.
Establishing that a presumption in a civil and administrative proceedings that certain conduct demonstrates the requisite intent to predominantly earn a profit absent reliable evidence to the contrary, proven guilty until proven otherwise. The proposed regulatory amendments are consistent with the plain language of the GCA, neither the pre-BSCA definition with the principal objective of livelihood and profit, nor the post-BSCA definition of the predominantly to earn a profit requires the government to prove that the defendant actually profited from the firearms transactions, referring to the intent underlying the sale or disposition of firearms. The exact percentage of income obtained through the sales is not the test. Rather, the statute focuses on the defendant's motivation in engaging in the sale. ATF's
So basically,
experience,
if you make a penny, you sell it for a penny more,
or you lose a penny.
Yeah,
If you just sell.
Yeah.
ATF's experience also establishes that certain conduct related to the sale or disposition of firearms presumptively demonstrates a primary motivation to earn a profit in addition to conducting criminal investigations of unlicensed firearms businesses under BLAW. The ATF has for many decades observed through qualification and compliance instructions how dealers who sell or dispose of firearms demonstrate a predominant intent to obtain pecuniary gain as opposed to other intents such as improving or liquidating a personal collection. Based on decades long body of experience, the proposed rule provided that absent reliable evidence to the contrary, a person would be presumed to have intent predominantly to earn profit when the person advertises, markets, or otherwise promotes firearms business, advertise or post firearms for sale, including any website that establishes a website selling or offering for the sale their firearms, makes available business cards or tags firearms with sale prices, regardless whether the
Have you
just
ever been
thought
to
of
a gun store where
something.
people walk around and they have a sign saying, I'm selling this for this amount of money, and they stick it in the barrel?
Mm-hmm. You got a barrel flag. I just thought of something
yeah.
else too, but I'm not even gonna say it aloud because I don't want to give them any ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that would happen at gun shows. You pay your price of admission. You got most of the gun over your shoulder with a tag on it saying $500.
Read this.
Promotes
Regardless
a
of whether.
firearms business. Advertise or post firearms for sale, including on any website. Establishes a website for selling or offering
Sorry.
for sale their firearms. Makes available business cards or tags of firearm with sales prices, regardless of whether the person incurs expenses or only promotes the business informally, purchases or rents or otherwise secures.
Basically, if you use like Gunbroker, sells on Gunbroker or Arms List or anything like that, you're going to be presumed to be in the business of selling firearms.
So 2 is like I bought a table at a gun show. Purchases or rents or otherwise secures or sets aside space to display or store firearms They offer for sale, including part or all of a business premises or table or space at a gun show or display case, makes or maintains records in any form to document and track or calculate profits and losses from firearms purchases and sales, purchases or otherwise secures
Okay,
merchant
stop right
services.
there. I have a financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is PL, profit and losses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whether it's my couches that I'm giving to Dark, those are going to be marked as losses. If I sell something that I bought for more money, those are marked as profits. I'm not in the business of being a couch dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Now you're giving the couch to Dark. Dark might feel he owes you a favor.
If I were to
Yes.
throw you a few $100, let me ask you this though. One thing I see, and again, I don't even want to say it because I want to give them anything. It says, or only promotes the business informally. So let me ask you this. Let's say there are some content creators that are informally promoting a business that sells firearms,
Like PSA.
like PSA, Brownells, etc. What does that mean?
I think PSA because they have an FFL. I don't think it really applies to that.
I don't know.
But who knows? I'll keep on going.
Credit card transactions, digital wallet for business. So any PayPal, any kind of thing like that.
PayPal,
Through
Zelle, Cash App.
which the person makes or offers to make payments for firearms transactions, formally or informally purchases, hires, or otherwise secures business security service central station monitored
Uh-oh, my house. We had that
security
conversation
system
yesterday.
registered to a business or guards for security to protect his business or assets or transactions that include firearms. Like I have a home alone. Formally or informally establishes a business entity, trade name, or online business account, including an account using a business name on a social media or other website through which the person makes or offers to make firearms transactions, secures or applies for a state or local business license to purchase for resale or to promote merchandise that includes firearms or purchases.
Basically, this is saying that if you have an FFO, you can't sell firearms, personal firearms.
NPRM noted that these rebuttable presumptions concerning an intent to predominantly earn a profit and independent of the set of presumptions described above regarding conduct that presumptively shows a person is engaged in the business, this second set of presumptions that addresses the only intent to predominantly earn a profit would be used to independently establish the requisite intent to profit in a particular, scroll. Proceeding as with the engaged in business presumptions, the activities set forth in the intent presumptions would not be exhaustive of the conduct that may show that or be considered in determining whether a person actually has requisite intent to predominantly earn a profit. There are many other fact patterns that would not fall within the specific conduct that presumptively requires a license under this rule, but that reveal one or more preparatory steps that have presumptively demonstrate to an intent to predominantly earn a profit from firearms transactions. Again, none of these presumptions would apply to criminal prosecutions, but could be useful in courts in criminal cases, for example, to inform appropriate jury instructions regarding permissible inferences. These presumptions would be supported by the department's investigative and regulatory efforts and experience, as well as conduct that the courts have relied in determining whether a person was required to be licensed as a dealer in firearms even before the SCA expanded the definition.
So
I don't
basically,
even
if
know
you
what that
go to
means.
if you go to court for criminal conduct, they can say that, oh, he was engaged. That we determined that he was engaged in business of a dealer because they weren't able to dispute it in the civil conduct. So this is a way of getting around the presumption of innocence in a criminal trial.
Wow.
So I want to comment further on the jury instructions part because that's interesting.
Mhm.
Disposition of business inventory after termination of license. The NPRM next
All right,
explained
we're
that.
going to skip all this because we're kind of running late. So we're going to skip the whole entire
Oh,
FFL.
come on, we're only 53 pages into 466.
Well, a lot of it's comments.
Oh, okay.
So, like the rest is comments.
Analysis of
We don't have
comments
to read this.
and
These are just comments. These are people
Oh, okay.
raising concerns and everything else. So that's basically that's basically it for the rule. The rest of what a lot of people don't understand when they publish these rules, the vast majority of it is comments and them responding to comments.
Legal jargon isn't clear until Flying Rich reads it aloud. Thanks, Rich.
Dude, that's
It's
not so.
yeah, it's one of those things.
That is the absolute complete definition of tyranny.
And it's our responsibility to stand in defiance of tyranny.
All right, I want to get to a couple. The first, the super chat. Free men die free. Two-tiered rules attack private property rights and FFLs, limiting access and ownership by restricting commerce, leaving us no choice but for FFLs and manufacturers to defy and be made an example of.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go here. Could this backfire on them since now everyone could be considered an FFL 3-7? FFL 3 and FFL 7 and an SOT? No, because you need a license. They're saying that you need to actually get it before you can do anything.
I was wondering when we're going to see Jordan Vinro.
I want a 24-hour of reading off. No, Jordan. No. Not going to happen. 12 p.m. There will be oral arguments in the Ninth Circus. Oh, I think he meant to say circuit. Oh, never mind. No, he didn't.
Yeah,
he'll be streaming. CNT Designs and Arms is a great channel. Coop is a great guy. Definitely go check him out and check it out at noon. And that is noon Eastern, which is 9 a.m. California time, where the 9th is. Drop it like it's got. When does this go into effect? 30 days from whenever it gets published. Basically, ATF releases it. They send it to the National Register. Whenever they post it, it's 30 days from that date. It just depends on their backlog and how many rules that they are posting before it gets there. So it could be tomorrow. It could be Monday. We don't know quite yet.
I want to hear what Jordan has to say about this because he owns Eagle Shows.
Yeah. Does this rule have criminal penalties? Kinda. It's they can use your presumption in a criminal case, but they presume that you're guilty and civilly, and then they can give jury instructions that this guy is guilty. So it's a way around the presumption of innocence. It's basically
this is absolute insanity. This is within our lifetime. They're going to do everything they can to remove the lawful purchasing and selling of firearms, and we're seeing it literally right in front of us. We are seeing it.
Remember, individual constitutional rights only for individual citizens. I think for more than just citizens, but I get what you're saying. Not for the federal state government. And that's something that I always say. What do I always call the Bill of Rights, Rich? A document of
negative liberties.
Exactly, because it restricts the federal government, not the other way around. It's saying do not tread on these rights.
Yeah.
All right.
Dude, I'm at a loss for words. Like this is
Ooh, what about gun parts?
Well, it depends.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't. Luckily, we haven't gotten to that point where.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Tyranny is now the new norm. Exactly, Donald. You are 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
Un-American activities. Exactly. It's a Fed bot. Someone different Fed bot in there somewhere. Oh.
No, so too many choices said, call me crazy, but I don't care about this. And I think people are saying, oh, it's a sus Fed. No, he just is patriotic and doesn't care about the ATF and their stupid laws. So
Too many choices is a good guy.
yeah, he's a good dude. He's one of us.
No, too many choices is definitely one of us.
Yeah.
He's been around forever.
Yep.
So
There you
I'll
go.
vouch for him.
There's his explanation.
American Tyrant Federation.
Yep.
Men's state media, exactly. All right,
Wow.
guys.
Just
I'm
remember,
stunned.
Here's one. To serve and protect has become to enslave and abuse.
yeah.
Amen.
The tree of liberty is getting a little bit parched. I have no idea what that
Ooh.
means, but okay.
Just remember that it is your duty, it is your responsibility, and all of us as men, as warriors of God, to stand in defiance of tyranny. And whatever that means to each and every one of you is whatever that means. But that is our responsibility. It is a duty. Meh. Duty.
All right, guys, that is it. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. I'm just going to remind you guys, if you search DoD hardware on Google, you might come up with a website that this guy runs. He also runs a channel called DoD After Dark, which we can stream to today for some reason.
Yeah, we can't stream for another 6 days, thanks to YouTube. And thank you
Because
for that,
of
Jeff.
a picture of a dead deer.
Yes, I am apparently the purveyor of graphic and violent material because I showed a 3D printed rifle next to a dead deer.
Yeah, a hunting video.
Not even a video, just a
A
picture.
hunting picture.
You
Yeah.
you were scrolling through Google Images.
Yeah, it was their images.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can follow Rich at flyingrich.com, Flying Rich Firearms, and Flying Rich on YouTube, Flying Rich _official on Instagram. And with that, we are out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you must stay ever free. You must stay ever vigilant. And also, you must always keep in the fight. And with that, guys,